Welcome everyone to another edition of Anime Talk. I am your host Joe, back for another week of enjoyment, I would say. I'm here with three guests again tonight, three returnees, some regular attendees, I would say. And tonight we're just going to hang out, discuss some random meta topics, and just have some fun in general. But let's get started. First up, you all know who I am. Remember, if you want to ask any questions of our guests, use the social stream on the right-hand side, or you can send me a message on Twitter. But let's get to our first guest. Liv, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Ben. You probably know me as LVLLN on Twitter. I also write for the anime blog Metanorn. Yep.
All right. Next up, we have Akira. If he's still there.
Oh, sorry, my bad. My internet died for a second. Excuse me. Hello, guys. I'm Akira. You all know me. I recently shut down my blog. Very sad. Very sad. So now I'm just a guy who bums around on Twitter and screams my opinions a lot.
All right, sounds good. And our last, but not least, at least we think so, guest, Mr. Blip. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Blip. I'm Kivo's bitch over at Friday Anime Podcast, and just like Akira, I just scream my opinions on Twitter without actually writing anything. Yeah.
This seems to be more productive at times, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah.
The instant feedback is more gratifying.
Oh, you get feedback?
Yeah.
So tonight we're kind of doing a meta episode where we're just kind of discussing random things. For example, we'll talk a little bit with Akira about why he chose to discontinue running his blog and doing his writing. We'll go over about kind of what our hobbies do, how our hobbies merge with our online life, so to speak, or with our virtual friends. And then we'll kind of go from there. So let's start off first, since you brought it up, Akira, to begin with. You used to run a blog, Moe Fundamentalism. Why did you choose to stop running that blog?
I don't have time to run a blog anymore, honestly. It's a little unfortunate, but I also, it just doesn't inspire me. And I'm just very busy with other stuff. I can barely keep up with anime as it is. And I just don't have the time or the patience to continue writing for an audience, especially one that I can reach very easily on Twitter, I think. And like I said in my last post, it also, for me, anime is all about the community and the people that I meet. And I think that running a blog actually does not help me meet more people. It does not help me get to know these people. It's just a platform for everyone to see who I am, but I'm not really seeing who everyone else is. So I think Twitter is a much better medium to do that as opposed to running a blog.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, I actually, I kind of know that feeling of, I guess, burnout in a sense. That, like, before I wrote at Metanorn, I was also part of a small team blog called Borderline Hikikomori, which kind of died out, but I had burned out after about writing there for about a year and a half, which I guess isn't that long. But sometimes, especially if you're somebody who's writing every week, if you're not, I don't know, if you're not like a natural writer, it can be a struggle to come up with something. And at that point, if it's a hobby and you're doing this for fun and it's only causing you, stress or trouble, then what's the point? I can really understand that. And after that, I became a lot more active on Twitter right afterwards, and it's a different platform, but serves many of the same needs. I decided to go back into blogging just because I liked having that platform, the soapbox, if you will, and a lot more word count to make a point. But I think finding that balance is very important, and yeah, I understand that feeling of just being tired of blogging.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Can I
it's
try
not
to-
just that. Yeah, Ben, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I just wanted to say, like, I actually respect you three, a lot because I just kind of joined the whole blogosphere thing, and 4 months into it, I wouldn't say gave up, but I felt so discouraged about doing this whole blogging thing in the first place. So I'm surprised that you guys have managed to keep writing posts for like 3, maybe 4 years, when I can't even hold it for like 4 months.
Now, see, relatively speaking, I only started in January. So in January, I started writing for WRL because Ghost is like, if you're going to do something, might as well write with me, right? We'll see how long you last. And Ghost has never been known to keep partners around very long. And actually, because we have very similar circumstances, it's been fun to write for WRL. But I've only been doing that since January.
Oh.
So I started blogging in 2007 with the Nihon Review. I was one of their pilot bloggers when we first started blogging instead of doing just reviews. So I've been in the blogging game for, half a decade now, which is quite a long period of time if you think about it. I left Nihon Review because I wanted something without commitments, something without a schedule, and I think that's sort of the first sign to me that there's something wrong because that was the first when I realized that this is a hobby and not a job, and I don't want it to be a chore. So I started my own blog. Kept it running for about a year, but then, in the end I was thinking, I don't really have that much to say that would warrant a post. I would much rather have a dialogue rather than an article. And, the other thing is I just can't keep current, and I think there are too many people with too many opinions on the internet, and, you can't shout them all down, so I might as well just engage them one-on-one instead of standing in a soapbox and broadcasting my views just like everybody else is,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually been blogging on and off, I guess, since 2006. I think, yeah, that was during my senior year of college. Actually, my initial motivation for blogging was at that time Game Trailers had just set up, and they had this point system where if you collected enough, you could get various prizes. And I wanted a Nintendo DS, which I got for free, thanks to putting up basically some crap blog post every single day for I don't know how many months. But that's what initially got me into it. Once I got the reward, I just quit. But I guess at that time I kind of had a taste for it, just the entertainment and writing, which isn't something that I really normally do. I'm a math person. I majored in math in college, and that's what my job is right now. So I like having that avenue to put my thoughts out there, work on my essay writing skills, and and that's what eventually got me back into blogging. Just the fact that I was watching anime, but I didn't really feel like I was interacting with it, and I thought, hey, there's this community of people out there, and even if nobody's going to read what I'm doing, maybe at the very least it'll get me to think about it a little more deeply than just passively watching it. That's how I got back in.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess just...
Go on.
Oh, thanks.
Sorry. This happens all the time. Go for it.
Well, I guess you guys bring up a really good point about the whole just interacting with people in the community, and I feel like that's kind of the part of the reason why I did this whole blogging, or tried to do a blog thing in the first place. Obviously, I didn't get back into anime until 2011, so for about half a decade, I just completely forgot about it. And it actually started with the Nihon Review. When I checked out that blog, and I started reading some of the forum posts, and I just liked the fact that there was a group of people I can talk to about it, so I guess my thoughts weren't necessarily bottled up. And then eventually over time I ran into other blogs, and it's nice to know that with an interface like Twitter, I can actually now interact with those people. And I guess that's kind of what got me into podcasting in the first place, instead of actually writing a blog, because my work, and I guess Joe can relate with this, is my work is essentially just talking with people, actually working with people, interacting with people. And if it weren't for that component where I'm with other people, if it was just me talking, or just me and Kibo talking, then there's no way I could have continued to do almost 20 shows. So yeah, it's definitely the community that kind of is the important thing as far as this whole blogging thing goes. And without it, like, this would just be nothing at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, go on.
Sorry, go on. Well, I was just going to say, I guess it's, the thing about blogging is that you do want to have, well, I do anyway, have a conversation with the readers, back and forth, hence, you know, the comment section, or in your case, Akira, I know you shut off the comment section so that people would come to you directly on Twitter, which I think it was an interesting move.
Which people hated, by the way. But go on.
Yeah, like after I read one of your things, I was like, oh, I want to, you know, leave a comment, and yeah, it's a little disappointing that I couldn't. I mean, but yeah, I can see why people would be a little taken aback. But I mean, whatever. That's I think that's a neat thing to do. Yeah, I definitely like having those conversations. It's not, especially when you're starting out, it's not always easy, you know, finding an audience who actually, I mean, it's hard enough to find readers, period, and then finding among them the people who actually want to interact with you, have a conversation with you, and I guess that's probably where Twitter is a lot better, because it's more direct, the person, and it's short, so people think less about replying. They don't feel the pressure to write a lot of things or even write anything meaningful. But you know, if it gets the conversation started, that's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's the other thing is, like, you know, just on a more broad level. I'm the kind of person who tries my best to keep my real life and my online life very separate, and that's actually been a very interesting exercise for me. It's a hard thing to do, actually, especially in today's day, you know, where there's so much interconnectivity. So, you know, for example, I don't have, none of my friends that I hang out with, like, at school know what my Twitter account even is. Like, no one knows my Twitter here at school. People don't even know I have a Twitter. And then same thing is, like, people on the internet, like you guys, like, none of you guys are my friends on Facebook. And that's just something that I keep very sacred, and I don't really sort of mix those two things. And it's kind of hard, actually, to keep up that, like, double life, you know? Like, a lot of people, I think, have let their real life and their life blend together, but I'm definitely a big fan of keeping it separate.
Yeah, see, I kind of agree with that in one sense. For me, it's to kind of separate my family from what I do on the side. Because, honestly, you guys are nice people, but are you really that way in real life kind of thing? You know what I mean? Would I really introduce my kids or my wife to you in the end? So
I mean, you definitely would introduce your kids to me. Uncle Akira is the most epic.
Yeah, I introduced my kids to one of my friends from college, and my wife was not amused.
Oh, man.
So it's one of those things where I have to. We can go into that another time, but yeah, it's one of those things where I agree with Akira. There is definitely some separation for a lot of these accounts. I could shut them off, and there would be a majority of the people I see on a regular basis that would never know the difference.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually I was the same way as you, Akira, for a while. I wasn't really active online, I guess, until towards the end of college and afterwards. But yeah, I would like, my username, for example, is based on my real name. And actually, like, back when I was 12 or 13 and came up with it, I mean, everyone knew it, but it kind of died out. Now it's not really associated with who I am in real life. But actually, a couple of years ago, I guess, when David, speaking of merging real life and name Zoox, set up Sixav, and you know, that was when I first really started to speak with other people. When, you know, my impronounceable username no longer became an option. So I just thought, hey, what the hell? Let him know my name. It's not that. It's pretty common anyway. It's Min anyway, and from then on, I feel like I've had the walls slowly dissolve, and kind of break it down in parts. Like I'm friends with a lot of people here on Facebook when I never used to. My friends in real life know I have a Twitter account, but then none of them have any interest in Twitter whatsoever, or anime, or anything like that. So, like, nobody really in my real life knows my internet persona. And for the most part, I try to keep at least my professional and my personal selves separate, because it's unfortunate, but a lot of what you do online can end up hurting you in the professional world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's that as well, but, I'm fortunate enough to work at a company that doesn't dig into your online life.
Lucky.
But, yeah, I mean, I think I'm very lucky in that regard. But, speaking of David Vuk, I think he is a man who has a very, very distinct vision for what it means to be online, what it means to be, interactive within this community. And, he is actually a big detractor of the phrase IRL, like in real life, because he believes that the internet is part of real life, whereas someone like me, I don't really believe that the internet is part of what I do sort of on a daily basis. Like, for me, the internet is an escape from my life. It's a different reality in which I can immerse myself, and I really like that aspect of it. But, there are restrictions. For example, you're all hearing my real voice right now. And, sort of as the world becomes more and more interconnected and social media becomes more and more prevalent, there's going to be more and more of a mixing of the two things. And it's interesting to see where this will go from here, Because, one of my biggest sort of joys in participating in this community is the fact that I can meet people that I've met through this online group in real life, and sort of put a name to the handle, put a face to the handle. For example, I go to Comic Kit every other year with a bunch of friends that I met on IRC. And that's just, that's really cool to me. And I think that the shock of that would be a little less if I had already heard people's voice, or, I think it's much cooler when you meet someone for the first time and you're hearing their voice for the first time. It's a very rewarding experience, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, last Anime Boston, actually, Arrow, Blip, and I met up because he was in Boston at the time.
Yeah.
And we also ended up meeting up with Hung on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah. So, just, as you said, put a face to the handle, face to a name, or name to a handle in some cases. And, yeah, I think there's something, I don't know, magical about just turning what's at first pixels on a screen, really, right, or to a real breathing human being that, hey, is a lot like you, and I think that's really cool. I mean, what do you think, Aeroblip?
Well, yeah. Actually, the funny thing is, though, when I first made my Twitter handle, which was around January, same time I joined the Zoox, I kind of went in not actually, or maybe with the opposite mindset that Akira had, where I had no problem like being very personal, like showing not showing it to everyone, but letting people know about my personal life and exactly what kind of person I am. I guess when I walked into this, especially it kind of helped since I joined SCC staff so early, was the fact that I figured this is just like any other club I would have joined in real life, whether it's maybe like joining a hobby shop or a sports team or like that kind of stuff. So it's just a group of people bonded by, this common interest. So to a certain extent, of course, there's really no harm in, trying to get to know those people, trying to put a face to a name. I was actually, kind of gung-ho with trying to meet new people and actually get to know other people, It's kind of hard to do that when you first go to a new place. Like, I guess some people when they go to a new college or when you move across the country for a new job where you don't know anybody. But, I guess having, I guess not the internet per se, but I guess having our community or our close-knit community then it's kind of like a nice security blanket to, like, you know, get you through the day sometimes. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So by all means, you know, if anyone wants to hang out, like, let me know. Like, I have no problem. Like, I don't hide these things where I don't jam it down people's throats saying that I like anime, but, you know, if someone asks, I have no problem, like, telling them.
I was trying to think recently, I don't know if you guys know who Typical Idiot Fan is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I found he's not on Twitter anymore. He hasn't tweeted in a long time. But
Who is this?
Typical Idiot Fan.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I know that account.
So I found out
Yeah.
he lives less than 5 miles away in the same town.
I thought he lived in Seattle.
Nah, he lives on the east side. Or maybe he moved, but at one point he lived not too far from me. But I thought that was interesting. It was just kind of random. He disappeared before we could ever meet up. But yeah, I know the general vicinity of where he lives, which I thought was interesting. It was just an interesting cross-section of stuff to randomly come across somebody like that. Especially when nothing's really geotagged. Or I don't follow anybody who typically geotags every tweet they do. Only a
I think
couple
I've
people.
accidentally geotagged. I think I accidentally geotagged a lot of my tweets that I do on my phone.
Yeah. Actually, for me, I've had the reverse of basically have real-life people encroach upon my Twitter in a good way, I guess. Like, I don't know if you guys know, her name is Jennifer. The user handle is Jennifu.
Yeah, Jennifer. Yep.
Yep. She was the president of the MIT Anime Club. I met her through that. I didn't go to MIT, but I did go to the club sometimes. And yeah, it was open to the public until very recently.
Wait, you didn't go to MIT?
No.
Oh,
I'm
wait,
not-
the other guy. Okay.
Yeah,
Arrow
I'm not-
from MIT. Yeah.
I'm not that smart.
Oh, you
No.
Boston area fools.
No, but yeah, I knew her through that, and then we became friends on Twitter and all
Yeah.
that. Another person's actually sorry, the person's blanking. But anyway, yeah, I've had at least a couple people whom I knew in real life become my Twitter friends, and that's pretty cool too. Especially since in that case you actually have an actual real human relationship with the person to build upon.
So here's a question
Yeah.
for you guys. Speaking of meeting up at cons and stuff, how often have you had to ask for like vacation at work or things like that to go to these cons? And has it ever made for an awkward when somebody comes up, hey, what are you doing I hear you're going on vacation. Where are you going? Have you ever had to explain that to any coworkers that wouldn't understand?
So
I
yeah, go first. You go
No,
first.
you go first.
No, I was saying
I went first last time.
Yeah, I have a very interesting sort of relationship with anime in the real world. Most people don't know that I even have this hobby. So, you know, for example, when I go to a con, I'll generally say like, oh yeah, like a couple of my friends from Japan are coming in, which is true. So I'm just like taking them around and hanging out with them. That's what I generally say when I'm going to a con. Or if I'm going to Comiket, I just say I'm going to Japan, and people are generally just like, oh, that's awesome, and then I don't have to say anything more about that. So that's how I get around that question.
Yeah, I guess sorry, were you finished or?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, yeah, I guess I approach it similarly where, yeah, I'll say, like, this year when I went to Otakon, I basically said, I'm meeting some friends, which is true. I'm going there with, friends to meet some more friends. And,
Yep.
but I've also, like, last year I went to Anime Expo in order to see the Hatsune Miku concert. So I was actually, I don't know if this is, like, backwards, but I was actually quite honest about that fact. I just didn't mention that there was an anime convention at the same time. I said, yeah, it's a concert by a robotic, singer, and everyone was like pretty confused that I would travel across the country to see that. But hey, it's music; it's a lot more, I guess, acceptable, quote unquote, than anime as among adults. But
Yeah.
I guess the story I wanted to tell was 2 years ago I went to New York Animefest, and at that, that was over the weekend. I took the Friday off, but that I didn't really need a reason for that. But on the way back from New York to Boston, I took a bus, and I noticed on that same bus is one of the directors of my company. He was basically 2 levels above me, and basically my boss's coworker, on that level. And his reason was he has a family in New York City, and he goes back and forth every weekend. And fortunately, I didn't feel any pressure to sit next to him and talk to him for 4 hours, because I hardly know the guy, and it would have been very intimidating. But yeah, I actually don't even remember what I told him, but I didn't tell him the truth. But that was kind of I mean, every time you're out in public, there's a chance that you're going to run into someone from many parts of your life. But this was a situation where I could feel my heart drop. When I saw him, and I'm like, is that him? And he turns, and it's like, yeah, that's him.
I'm glad you weren't in any sort of cosplay.
Yeah, that was before I ever cosplayed.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, it's just there's something strange about being an anime fan and being a real, what I like to call a real person. That's a very interesting dynamic to try and juggle, I think. Because, there are a lot of negative stereotypes attributed to anime, I think, more so than a lot of other fandoms. It's because it's weird and foreign, and a lot of it is very sexualized, which, weirds people out for pretty obvious reasons.
Well, then you get the people that are crossing the border, get their computers confiscated for what they
right.
Questionable things.
Yeah,
idiots like that give our fandom a really bad name. And always hearing stories out of Japan that's like, oh, look how weird Japan is, they're marrying their body pillows over there. And I don't know, it's very frustrating on some level to have to deal with all of that, so I just don't tell anyone that I'm into anime, or that I spend 60% of my life on this one hobby that I have.
Mm-hmm.
But when I do get to slip out, I slip out. And just go crazy. To me, being at Anime Expo, being at New York Comic Con, being at Comic-Con, that's not real life for me. To me, it goes beyond just separating social circles. I'm literally a completely different person. When I go to a con and when I hang out with my internet friends, as opposed to who I am in real life. Yeah.
I guess I'm kind of the opposite. Well, kind of. Like I said before, I don't hide who I am, but at the same time, I don't scream at the top of the lungs, hey, look, I look at these no-way cartoon shit. Yeah, it's a couple of my friends, in college, they eventually figured out what I did and what I watched, and to be honest, it wasn't really that bad. There's actually one person who, from Africa, coincidentally, or not coincidentally, we were really great friends for 4 years, and essentially just one day he kind of snuck up on me when I was watching some shows, and he was like, oh, what are you watching? And I was like, oh shit, so I have to explain this to him. And he knew about the stereotypes of, I guess, anime fans, otakus, but at the end of the day, we were still friends, and we still talk, so
yeah.
I don't hide it, but at the same time, if you ask about it, I'll give you information on it. So
yeah. I mean honestly,
sorry.
Honestly, the stereotypes are much worse in Japan than over here. Absolutely. Yes. It's much worse across the pond.
Well, I mean, it doesn't help if people here actually know about those stereotypes, but after a while, it's not when you try to explain it to somebody, it seems like people are a lot more reasonable than I guess when I was growing up, because I've dealt with a bunch of stereotypes, and it just constantly on a personal level. And
right.
Yeah, so it gets to the point where I guess after 20 plus years of just dealing with it, you just have a tolerance for it. So, and you kind of understand how people work too. So it's if you're gonna really stop talking to me just because I have this hobby, then were we really meant to be friends in the first place? That's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah, sorry. I've kind of feel the same way that and often thought it's a function of just the age group that I hang around in. Of course, as I get older, my friends get older, and it feels like as I went out of college and into more, I guess, adult life, it's become more open, more comfortable with sharing who you really are. I think. I mean, obviously, a school experience varies from person to person, but
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people will agree that many people have difficulty really being comfortable with who they are when they're going to school at that age. And I think as people grow up, they become more comfortable with accepting who others people are as they mellow out a bit. When I was in school, I used to be very much more secretive. Now I guess, as you said, Aeroblip, I don't push it on people's faces, but if people ask, I'll tell them the truth. And generally, if they know me as a person, that doesn't change anything between. And hey, that's just part of who I am. I'm sure, I'm sure 95% of the people I know have some insane quirks that I have no idea about, that they're not sharing, or maybe they do and they are sharing, and they're very open about it. It's like everyone has. People are much more complex than you realize, like at first.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think people are willing to accept that. Hey, this person's an anime fan. That's kind of weird, but hey, he's still pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think if you're a really, mature and reasonable human being, you'll see over stereotypes. But, definitely in some situations where you don't really get to know people that well, or like, situations where you can't get to know people on a personal level that quickly. Like, for example, with your boss's boss, like, if he sees you cosplaying, you have so much explaining to do. And it's like much better to not put yourself in that kind of a situation in the first place where you would have to explain something like that.
Yeah. You're trick-or-treating. Just tell them that.
Oh, man.
Hey, New York Animefest is right around.
Yeah, so actually about New York Anime Fest, the con formerly known as New York Anime Fest, now New York Comic Con, I'll be there probably Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Everyone should come hit me up, and I literally mean everybody. I'll be working at the Hendane booth. It's really easy to find. It's the one with the big yaoi flag, the one with the yaoi paddles and people screaming yaoi. I'll be there. I'll be there. Just come find me. I'm not the guy screaming yaoi. That's not going to be me. I'll be the guy who's not doing that on the other side as far away as I can be. But yeah, I think it'll be a really fun time if we can just hang out. Because, all I love is, the reason why I'm still watching anime is because of you guys, not because of the show themselves. The show themselves, whatever. Like, some of them are interesting, some of them are not so much interesting. But, like, what makes this whole hobby so rewarding is the ability to meet people through this hobby. And like I said, I'm also leading a trip to Japan this winter, so if any of you guys...
Oh, are you guys going to Winter Comic Con?
I mean, I'm going. I don't know about everyone else. I'm definitely going. I already booked my ticket. So if anyone wants to come hang out with me in Japan, let me know. I'm down to show you guys a really, really, really good time. It'll be really weird. Like, really weird. But, yeah.
Oh yeah, I still owe you a beer. I just remember that.
What?
I promised Akira I'd buy him a beer one of these days, back when I was still in Boston, so...
Where are you now? Where are you now?
Oh, I'm in the... If you guys can see my hand, I'm in this part of the mitten. Okay, so I'm not going to hide it. I'm in Michigan right now, and I'm currently... so like they said earlier, I was at MIT. That's when I actually ran into Min, and that's when I had a couple opportunities to run into Akira. That didn't happen. But yeah, I'm in Michigan now, continuing my studies. So.
Yeah, I'm still in Boston. So hey, Akira, if you ever come, I'll get you a beer.
I'll definitely be in Boston. I'm trying to hit up you, Sang, and Thursday at the same time when I go up to Boston later, so I gotta plan that really well. But yeah, definitely. You know, all of you guys out there who are listening to this, if you ever want to meet up with any of us, just like holler. Honestly, like we all have busy lives, but we can definitely plan something out over the course of a year or half a year. But yeah, you know, I mean, like I said, this is the only time when your real life, so to speak, meets your online life, and it's one of the most fun experiences one can have, I think.
Yeah,
I agreed.
I didn't realize how badass Min was, so you guys should definitely like, take the
Wait,
opportunity and learn about
who was this?
Min. He's so badass.
Who's
What?
Min?
That's me.
Levlin.
Oh, Liv. Oh, Liv.
Yeah, my name, you can call me Min. If, yeah.
Like, see, Akira had
Oh.
everything muted when we started, so he completely spaced out anything that wasn't involving him, you know.
Oh, that's just me all the time. I actually have a filter which tunes out everything that's not about me.
Sounds a lot like my wife.
Yeah,
kidding.
I think way too many people have that, actually.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding, guys.
So, Joe, actually, I had a question about, like, since you have 2 daughters, correct?
I have 3 total kids, 2 daughters.
Okay, 2 daugers and a son?
Yes.
Well, I guess that would make sense.
No, 2 daughters is something
And
else.
a
It's not a son.
I mean,
And a
I don't know,
hermaphrodite,
a hermaphrodite, yeah. Anyway, so I know it was either last year or early this year, you tried to show them or one of them some anime, and whereas you wrote at least like one blog post about it.
So
Would you mind sharing
Sure,
like, that
so-
experience with us?
So my middle child, my oldest daughter, is my biggest cartoon fan. My biggest anime, cartoon, whatever you want, any sort of animated media fan. So it would have been last winter, we watched Bunny Drop together, which was perfect, right? Dad figure with a little girl doing cute things, you know, perfect stuff,
Yep.
right? She had a blast watching that. And then I made the decision over the Christmas holiday season to marathon through Aquarion because I hadn't seen it yet, right before the new series came out. Right before the new
Okay.
series came out in January. Much to my, whatever you want to call it, she ended up marathoning the entire thing with me.
Oh.
Which was a lot. It was just an interesting experience to let your kids watch a show like that. Because it's funny for the most part, but there's definitely some scenes where you're putting some goggles on.
Yeah.
You're blocking some images. But that's how we kind of got started. So right now she watches, she watched the entire new Aquarion series with me. She watches Polar Bear Cafe. That's a big one. Puyo Puyo, of course. That's one of her favorites. How can you not like a show about a fat cat doing funny things?
Yeah.
That's the closest she'll ever get to a cat in my house, so she has to get used to it. Yeah, she is my cartoon girl. She loves to watch that stuff. So it's a lot of fun sharing those experiences with my daughter because I definitely do not enjoy watching My Little Pony or the Barbie movies or Strawberry Shortcake with her. So this is the one thing we do watch together. The one genre, for lack of a better word, that we do watch together. Yeah, for those of you out there that are bronies, I will never convert. Don't ask. Don't care. I live it. I don't want it. You know, I guess it's only cool if you don't have to live it day to day, right?
I don't know. It seems like some of those bronies do live it day to day.
I don't know.
I don't know any bronies.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't. But anyways, I'm very negative to bronies. I apologize. You're probably good people. You're just never going to be...
Yeah, see, it's just like anime fans. You get to know the person, and hey,
They're
they
probably
just have
very
this weird
cool
hobby.
people, but
Yeah.
I think you know, here I'll get sidetracked for just a second. Like we'll make anime fandom this circle, right? They're like the fringe on the very edge of that circle to me. Like the same people who marry their pillows and you know, that kind of stuff. They're on that same fringe to me, or bronies.
See, so I want to illustrate a point using what Joe just said, is that, you know, someone said, I think it was Blip or Arrow Blip, so not me or not Joe, said, like once you get to know someone, then it's really not that big of a deal what their hobbies are. But the problem is that there's that initial barrier, right? Like if I, for example, I'm sure there are plenty of bronies who are really, really great people. I happen to know a few. But, like, when you know that someone's a brony, you hesitate to approach them initially. And I think that's kind of the same deal with being an anime fan and sort of doing that in general. Is like, if someone knows you're an anime fan, I think that it's a barrier to entry for them. Like, it's unfortunate, but we all have preconceived notions of other people, despite what we might think. So, yep.
Now,
Yeah,
well, if you don't mind, just here's a little thought question. So say, okay, so let's going on that topic. Say they're, someone knows that you're an anime fan, and they kind of are hesitant to approach you in the first place. Is that your problem, or is that their problem?
No, it's their problem, but the one who suffers is you ultimately.
Not necessarily.
I mean, in some cases, I would say that you do suffer from that. Some cases it doesn't matter, but especially in like a professional situation, definitely you're the one suffering.
Yeah, I think professional situation rules really change. But
oh yeah, absolutely.
I guess in I guess I have a kind of small example, but like I was introduced to a girl by a friend of mine from my Boston anime club. So, we talk and she asks, how do you know this person? And I just straight up explain, we're both part of the anime club. And she looks at me like, a little off, and she's like, you don't look like an anime fan.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, at that point I'm realizing, yeah, maybe this person's not exactly, the right person for me. Like, we went on a few dates and nothing happened, but I don't think it was going to work out anyway. Anyway, but yeah, it's like I definitely hear what you're saying, that if a person's going to respond to that fact in that way, it's, I feel like generally I like to associate myself with, more open-minded people who are, at least going to be accepting of who I am and without, passing judgment. And yeah, when somebody responds that way, maybe that's not just a factor, but it's like it's a signal that, hey, maybe this isn't somebody that you would have gotten along with anyway. So, well, what's not a big loss? But again, of course, in a professional setting, even in an academic setting, sometimes it can matter, but that's really depending on case to case.
I guess, let's just, it is true that you are right, that in the professional setting it is slightly different, but, at the same time, maybe your supervisor or whoever is above you, it could be possible that they are a little more understandable as well. So it's just a brief point. So you know how we're talking about or what is it called, Connecticon?
Yep.
Connecticon, right? Yeah. So one of my office mates at the time, he was actually going to go to Connecticon, and we were talking about it, joking about it briefly, and then like my boss, who's like this 50-year-old guy, just randomly like came up from behind us, and he heard our entire conversation. So he heard us talking about like cartoons and video games and that kind of stuff, and he just came up, he was just kind of curious. He's like, so what are you guys talking about? And we explained it to him straight up, and he's like, oh, okay. And then, just went on his day. And so for me, like, being the intern, I was actually kind of concerned as to, what was going on. Later that day, I actually get called into his office, or with the HR person and everyone. So, like, there's a group of people there, and so they straight up asked me, like, what were you talking about specifically? Like, they wanted more details. So, I can't lie to them, I mean, they already have all my information, like, especially with my background, so just keep going. So I told it to them. And they were actually, fairly open-minded for the most part. This 50-year-old man who essentially just said straight to my face, as long as what you're doing is not breaking the law and doesn't affect your productivity, I'll be okay with it. Like, you could collect roadkill for all I care, but as long as you come in and do your 8 to 5, I'm happy. So I mean, we are, yeah, so it is true that, the professional setting is different because we actually represent a company, not ourselves. But at the same time, maybe we're thinking we're a little too uptight about this. Just,
Again, like, I think everyone is different. The thing about me is, like, to be honest, I have a myriad of other hobbies that I can talk about other people with, and a large part of it is just like me sort of not wanting to discuss hobbies that are not common to me and my friends. Like, there's no, like, for example, if I'm watching a TV show, my friend doesn't watch this TV show, there's, like, no reason why I should be talking about it to him, right? Like, I should talk about, let's say we both saw the Ravens game last night. Like, I would rather talk about the Ravens game than about, like, some TV show that only I watch, And that's kind of my approach in life. Like, I talk about different things with all kinds of different people, and that's just how it is. And you guys happen to be in my circle that, you guys, I talk to you guys about Japanese cartoons all the time. Like, that's just what we talk about. And I don't really treat you guys any differently from my real friends. The difference is that you guys are separated by temporal distance as opposed to just, you guys are a little less accessible than my friends that I have at school, for obvious reasons. That's the only real difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying, Aeroblip. I think, to be quite honest, I'm probably being more paranoid, or I'm probably being paranoid in the way that I'm thinking about it. It is, I mean, I can sort of, it's one of those things I can intellectually accept that I'm probably wrong, but I find a kind of an impulse that I'm...
Yeah, it's a visceral reaction, yep.
Yep, exactly. It's a habit that I've formed, perhaps, and I think definitely it's something to try to break out of, but I'm not there yet, I guess.
So guys, we're gonna start. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but definitely, I think people in general are going to be more understanding than you might think.
Yeah.
My experience.
So guys, we're gonna start closing it up for tonight. We've the whole topic's been about final thought, or the whole night's been final thoughts, so to speak, just random off the cuff, kind of meta conversation. Is there anything you want to close out with before we finish up? Why don't we start with Aeroblip? He seems to have been the quietest one tonight.
Well, I mean, I'm the quietest because this is actually a great conversation. I wanted to hear it. Nothing.
Hey,
really.
Aeroblip? What did? I think you forgot to mention something tonight.
Oh yeah. Kotori is the best idol. Happy numbers.
Gotta satisfy.
What's the best show of 2011?
Madoka.
Wrong. Wrong.
Those are both clown opinions, bro. Those are both clown opinions.
Well, you don't think Kotori is the best idol?
No, that's wrong. But continue
She's
your
not an
final
idol.
thought.
Oh, she is. Oh, you guys.
Stop.
Who gets her own drama CD? Just saying.
Wow. All right.
This is why I hate myself. Sometimes I look in the mirror and I just feel nothing but disgust for who I am.
I would too if I was a Mickey fan.
Shut up.
Oh, those are fighting
Jeez.
words. Fighting words.
Fighting words. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you when I go to Boston. Be careful. But anyways, go on.
All right. So, men, final thoughts.
Makoto is the best. I like the sporty girls. That's it.
So, my final thought is that we have two people here, one who likes a washed-up form wide and one who likes a man. So,
And nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just not what I'm into. So, just again to reiterate, if you have good taste, if you are a fine discerning gentleman like me, you will see that the logically clear choice is that Nikki is far superior to everybody else.
Oh, you guys. I don't know what to say. Anyways.
Joe, you have to watch the show before you say anything. It's actually a good show. as astonishing as that is, it was absolute, like, even if you don't like the whole idol industry, it's a fascinating piece. It's a fascinating cultural text.
Oh, I'm not
I'll
saying
just put it
I
that
dislike
way.
the idol industry. I just didn't. I don't know. I watched. I guess my equivalent for watching was AKB48, but
That's terrible. Don't
Oof,
make that
yeah.
comparison.
You know, watch it with your daughter. She'll love it. It's about pretty girls dancing around on stage and being a star. Isn't that what everyone
No,
wants?
it's about following their dreams.
Oh
That's
God,
what-
stop it! Stop!
Okay,
Stop!
but
Makoto has no dreams. Neither
So-
does Kotori, for that matter. She's an office assistant.
All right. So
Sorry.
if you're looking to find this show and others, you can go to joeanimated@wordpress.com. There's a podcast feed associated with this. The link's right there, or you can find it on the right-hand side of the webpage when you go to the WordPress blog. Also, all these shows are on YouTube. Typically, audio and video go up on Thursday, if I actually get the time. And if you're interested in being on the show with me, you can always send me an email and we'll get you on board. Next week, I'm looking to have 2 new guests. We're working on that right now, and it should be a lot of fun. But thank you to the 3 guests I have tonight, and to everyone listening and or watching, have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Later,
Thank
guys.
you.